Welcome to the Infernal Brotherhood's Willow series. Today I'm going to review Shadow Moon, Book 1 of Chronicles of the Shadow War Trilogy, the sequel to the beloved novel and film, Willow. We'd like to invite you to become a member of this YouTube channel or patron on Patreon, and thank you to creator patron Aaron Hardy and developer patron Chris Androu. All right, so my initial impressions are, wow, they can really go off on descriptive tangents in this. So on this channel, I have performed a live reading unabridged of the entirety of Shadow Moon. It's about, I think like 16 hours long, 2 hours each session. And Chris Claremont can really write description ad nauseum. I mean, it's just overly descriptive in a lot. And so those are my initial impressions of this book. However, I read the trilogy, then I performed the reading, and now I'm reviewing it based on the reading, where actually, because it's the second time that I've read this novel, it drops hints about what's to come and the realities of the entire trilogy, the Chronicles of the Shadow War, that I didn't realize the first read through. It took the second read through for me to pick up on them, but it straight up, like if you've already read the trilogy, the first book tells you everything you need to know about where it's going to go, which is very interesting to me because the first read through, I was like, what the hell is going on? This doesn't make it, but they do plant seeds to let you know. You just have to be perceptive enough. And clearly I was not. So what are you going to do, right? All right, so this was written by Chris Claremont and George Lucas. It was published in 1995 by Bantam Spectra, and it's the continuation of the 1988 motion picture Willow. Now, I know a lot of you who watched the Willow series enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed the Willow Disney series. I did not, but this is the series that I wanted that series to be based on because it already existed. There was a precedent for what to pull information from. And you don't have to follow this verbatim, but at least use it as leverage. There's also the Willow source book, which I reviewed on this channel, and it is full of a lot of really wonderful content that you could also use as a jumping off point. And unfortunately, the Willow series completely ignored it all, did its own thing poorly, and you can't even find it anymore. That's how bad it was. Okay, so that being said, if you want a Willow sequel, you don't have to look far. These books exist, the three of them. They're all pretty beefy, around 400 plus 500 pages, and it really builds out the world of Willow so much greater than the Willow film and novel and comic adaptation ever did. So if you really want to know about the world that George Lucas himself was involved in creating, this is the trilogy to read for that. Okay, so this is the first book, Shadow Moon, of the Chronicles of the Shadow War trilogy. It's followed up by Shadow Dawn and Shadow Star. And again, all three of them are about what's called by Thorn Drumheller / Willow Ufgood, the Deceiver. And it's all about, first of all, the destruction that the Deceiver is causing. The Deceiver is trying to take control of Elora Danan for some reason and destroy the entire known world in the process of trying to get her and destroy her. And ultimately, it's about finding out who the Deceiver is and overcoming them, defeating them ostensibly, in the same way that they defeated Bavmorda. But in later books, you actually get some really wonderful cameos and sneak peeks and stuff. I'm not going to spoil that. I'm not going to talk about that at all. But I will say that this initial novel confused a lot of people and frustrated a lot of people because it went way above and beyond the actual Willow film itself. And it really kind of knocks all of that stuff off of the table and then moves in a wildly different direction. So if you want just the world that Willow, the film, presented, you're probably not going to enjoy this trilogy. But if you want to get into the universe of that film, this does it wonderfully. You do have to fight through some pretty poor writing and some ad nauseum descriptions in order to get it. but it's there, and it's pretty damn good and graphic as well. This is an adult novel. It shows horror scenes in it that are just vibrant and brutal. For someone like me who loves horror films, it was pretty cool. So, to each their own. So the plot is basically this. A year after the downfall of Queen Bavmorda, Willow Ufgood returns to Tyrant while he returns to life, being a farmer. One night he dreams of returning to Tyrant on the back of a dragon named Callan Danir to Tyrant. Once he's there, he reunites with Madmartiga and Sorsha, and they rename Willow Ufgood Thorn Drumheller. So that's where the name Thorn Drumheller comes from. It's Madmartiga and Sorsha. In honor of Elora Danan's birthday, he gives her this stuffed little bear, which also transfers a portion of his defense versus magic to her. So this is a world where Willow Ufgood / Thorn Drumheller is incredibly powerful, and he has abilities that are just way far and beyond what we would think of even the High Aldwin having from the original Willow series, and certainly greater than Willow had at the end of the film Willow. So always keep in mind that magic that we experienced in Willow was just the very, very basic stuff, and it gets much bigger and bolder and wilder and crazier in this trilogy. So basically he wakes up and he discovers that this apocalyptic cataclysm has wiped out everyone in Tyrant. And it's not only happened there, it's happened globally, all around this massive world that Willow exists in. And this freaks out a lot of people because it almost killed Elora Danan herself, and she is supposed to be the one to save everyone, not just to defeat Bavmorda, but actually to unite the world and unify the world through this ascension that she's going to be taking. And so they take Elora Danan all the way over to another kingdom and called Angwin. And basically she's held there until she's 13 years old. So at 13, she's going to go through this rite called the Ascension, which ostensibly puts her on this throne over the 13 different realms of the world and just sort of run everything at that point. Mainly as a figurehead, but she'll eventually, become more powerful. But anyway, that symbol on her arm, that's a symbol of the moon, the sort of goddess moon power that she has innately within her. And that's explored in future novels. It's just briefly touched on in this one. But it does showcase that she has incredible innate power in this, even though she's just a young girl. Okay, so that's the setup of it, right? There's this massive cataclysm. Willow is named Thorn Drumheller by Madmartigan and Sorsha, and Madmartigan and Sorsha are killed in this massive cataclysm as well. So the story is Thorn trying to figure out what the hell happened, what that cataclysm was, if Elora Danan's still alive, and what's going on around the world. Because as soon as he goes to start investigate, his homeland's destroyed too. So now his home is gone. He has nowhere to go. He has no one anymore. And so he's just sort of wandering the land like Cain in Kung Fu or something like that. Eventually, he meets up with Frangine and Rule, and they're two eagles that are these wonderful creatures that they ride and they fight with. And Frangine and Rule and Willow, / Thorn Drumheller, are all traveling just looking for answers. They end up being attacked by this massive pack of death dogs and saved by a character named Garin Havilhand. Now, Garin Havilhand is basically a soldier from Angwin, and he is returning to Angwin in order to witness the ascension of Elora Danan. So this is clearly 13 years at the point where she's supposed to be made this sort of powerful creature. Garin ends up helping Willow overcome these death dogs and escorting him to Angwin. They have to take a ship to get there, and that's where he meets some other interesting characters like Morag and Malrune, and a Weir, which is another species, sort of like undersea, like Ratman type species called Rin. Ratman's a little bit brutal of a description, but he's actually very strong and tough. But he can actually breathe and live underwater if he wants to. So it expands the universe of Willow exponentially. Not only are now there many kingdoms that we weren't aware of, but there's also a lot of species that we were never aware of, which is pretty exciting. So as soon as Willow gets to Angwin for that ascension ceremony, he is handed over to the Castellan Modri by Garen, who thought he was giving them, just helping Thorn. But in truth, Thorn has actually been identified as, what do they call him? I think it's a deceiver, but it's what Thorn ends up giving this other person. So they said Willow Ufgood is already here. Willow Ufgood is the one that's going to be watching over and conducting the ascension ceremony for Elora Danan. And Thorn Drumheller, who's actually Willow, is like, oh, really? That's interesting. Who is this Willow character? Where is he from? And so he's asking so many questions that the supposed Willow, the fake Willow, has told them that that's the other person's coming. And so they identify him as the fake Willow that they claim him to be, and they throw him in the prison cell. In the prison, he actually meets the Princess of Angwin, and he's basically like brutalized by the guards because the fake Willow Ufgood is claiming that he is trying to destroy Elora Danan, which again, it's all just telling on himself, because that's what the actual fake Willow Ufgood's going to be doing, is trying to destroy Elora Danan. But he doesn't want to be stopped by the real Willow Ufgood, and so he's telling them when this other Nelwyn comes by asking about Elora Danan, throw him in prison and make sure he never sees sunlight again. When he's in prison, he actually meets a demon which existed in the earth at this point when the castle was built on top of it. And so the demon sort of became part of the castle, but it helps Thorn with his magic. And Thorn uses something called insight. That's sort of how they describe his powers, where he can sort of have telekinesis and clairvoyancy and clairaudience, see through other people's eyes, hear through ears, but he can also use his magic to do wonderful things like travel through stone, as the demon shows him how to do it. So he travels through the stone of the castle to get up to Elora Danan, and she's this just horrible human being. She is spoiled and she's whiny, and she's never grown up in a way that a real human would grow up, with consequences and reality, because everyone treated her like this amazing princess, right? She's Elora Danan. And so they sort of literally kept her in a tower in the castle of Angwin, and she was just sort of isolated there with these beasts called night herons, which are basically like banshees, kind of. Well, they're not really banshees. It's like harpies. They're kind of like harpies. In any case, he meets her. She freaks out on him. They sort of have a bit of a fight, and he travels back down. And the demon's like, look, I'll help you rescue and get to stop the ascension ceremony from this fake Willow that you're claiming if you help me save my daughter. So the demon's daughter needs a body. There's a comatose body here, and all he needs is Willow to use magic fed through from the demon, but also his own innate magic, in order to instill this soul of a demon into this human body that's basically comatose and dead. Willow refuses initially because once you bond with a demon in any way, you're forever marked as a demon. And even the Rule and Frangine the brownies would never engage with him again, because once you're a demon, you're always a deceiver and a liar and a demon. Willow does it for Elora Danan to get to her to stop this ascension. And so that's how a character named Corin Banifin is created. She's this demon soul within a human mortal body. And then he is transported up to this ceremony center, this ritual chamber, basically, where everyone from dragons in the shape of humans, to Sherlindria herself, to all of the kingdom's kings and queens came to witness the ascension by the fake Willow Ufgood to Elora Danan. And then Thorn Drumheller announces himself like, this is all bullshit. He's a liar and he's a deceiver. I'm here to help. He doesn't announce himself as Willow. He says, I'm Thorn Drumheller. I'm here to stop this lie. And the fake Willow just assaults a barrage of magic at him. Elora Danan helps defend a little bit, but basically everyone in there is destroyed and frozen in time. And so Thorn Drumheller, aka the real Willow Ufgood, takes Elora Danan and flees. And the entire city, the entire keep, the entire town is just surrounded and turned into this massive ice sheet, and everyone is destroyed within it. The princess had already gone out on a mission, and so she was survived with her sort of thorn riders as they are. But everyone else in the entire keep, her whole family, all of these kingdoms were all destroyed at this ascension event. And so Willow has to figure out how the hell, first of all, who the hell is the deceiver? Why was he trying to destroy Elora Danan? Elora Danan doesn't know that this is actually Willow, the real Willow. And so she's freaking out the whole time trying to get away from him. Everyone who has ended up helping him, including Garen Havelhand, and Frangine and Rule, like, reject him initially because he's been demon touched. And so he's trying to get out of the city with Elora Danan to get away from the deceiver until he can sort of wrap his mind around what the hell is going on. They get caught by this third party, which is the princess and those riders from another kingdom. They're actively not working with Angwin, but Anacri doesn't realize that. And Anacri and Willow had this little connection in the basement when he was being abused and stuff. But basically, they get a ship, and the same people that took him here to Angwin, and they try to get away in the ship, but this massive storm comes on, and it's sort of manipulated and controlled by the deceiver, trying to, of course, kill Elora Danan and kill Willow. Elora helps calm the sea a little bit, but the captain is taken over and ripped apart, literally, visually, a very Clive Barker-esque way, by the deceiver, and they have to sort of crash back into Angwin Bay and then go through Angwin, through Sherlindria's wood, and they're just trying to escape. The deceiver unleashes these massive fire drakes, which start burning down and completely destroying the Sherlindria's forests. And Elora Danan goes up and stops the fire drakes, and basically turns them back away. And then this massive stag approaches. Willow Thorn Drumheller goes to heal the stag. The stag is revealed to be Sherlindria's consort. And they're taken to this ancient, massive castle that was created by giants before modern man ever took over. And so we're introduced to this sort of realm with history upon history upon history. So there's this ancient antediluvian era that modern people don't even know about. And that's what they thought it was just a big volcano, and it ends up being a volcano that giants made a keep out of. So they go there to hide from the deceiver, and that's after Garen turns against them. At this point, he's like, look, everything that's happened since I've met you, Thorn Drumheller, has turned the entire world upside down. So I'm blaming you for everything. And so you can kind of see why Garen wants to get away from Thorn, and he's trying to take Elora Danan from him, but all the people with Thorn, like Rin and Corey, won't let him. And so he basically goes off on his own to go find Princess Anacri and her Thunder Riders so they can come and take her. And of course, Thorn and everyone is going into this massive keep. So they go into the keep, and it's filled with all of the creatures that were once inhabitants of Sherlindria's wood, but when the fire drakes came, they all fled to the keep. And they all are basically doing the same thing that Garen just did, accusing Thorn Drumheller of destroying the world. And it's clearly not Thorn's fault, but it certainly seems like it is to everyone else, because none of this stuff ever happened until he started showing up on the scene. Of course, it would have happened anyway, but no one knows that. And so they're all basically putting him on trial when Anacri, the Thunder Riders, and Garen all come in, and it's a massive battle ends up happening between them, all the creatures, the consort of Sherlindria and Thorn and all their people, and they're trying to get Elora Danan, and they're all trying to get away. So they go up to this upper level and this other part through the stone. They sort of travel through the stone to this other part of the keep. And then while they're sort of under the ground, Willow talks to the fire drakes underneath and some other like stone drakes, and basically causes this massive eruption where this wakes up this volcano, which breaks apart the keep and separates all the different battling factions. Garen ends up sacrificing himself to save the princess. The deceiver comes and attacks, and Willow turns him to stone with one of his acorns. And ultimately, the deceiver leaves the form of Willow and takes over the Castellan Modri's body, and is basically in control of the Castellan Modri at the end of the book. And they all end up fleeing because they're, the entire volcano is about to erupt and stuff. And Willow and all of their people are sort of escape a different route. And it ends with Elora Danan recognizing Thorn Drumheller as the real Willow. And he gives her the bear that he found in the destroyed Tirasleen that he had gifted her on her first birthday. And that's when she recognized him for being actually Willow Ufgood. And they basically say, look, the Shadow War's begun. The Deceiver is out there destroying our world. We need to find out who the Deceiver is and stop him. And that's it. That's the entirety of the story. And when you bring a synopsis like this, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. It's massive world building. All sorts of stuff is going on. People can't trust Willow because he's not even named Willow, and he's refusing to be identified as Willow because then people will, go out of their way to attack him, because now it looks like Willow tried to take over the realms by trying to destroy Elora Danan. And so you have all these different factions happening at once, this exploded world of cataclysms and intrigue and duplicity and all these new races and everything. And it's a great setup to a trilogy that by and large everyone ignored because of the poor writing of Chris Claremont. And the story by George Lucas, I think, is great, but Chris Claremont wrote it, and he is known for writing comics, not long novels. And if he would have censored himself or edited himself, or whomever the editor was at Bantam Spectra, if they would have really broke down the overt descriptions, because this is supposed to be high fantasy, but he's using modern vernacular and examples in order to describe thoughts and experiences and everything in this high fantasy world. And so that breaks immersion, and it makes nonsense out of some of the moments. And so it becomes very, very frustrating. Ultimately, I do think the trilogy is worth reading if you love Willow, because once you're done with it and you reflect back on it, it's great. It's just kind of poor writing is what really holds this entire thing back. And if you just want to live in the film world of Willow, which is very, very small compared to this, then you're not going to like this, because this is infinitely larger. It's talking about different planes of existence. It's talking about different realms other than just Nockmaar and Galadorn and Tirasleen, and of course the Nelwyn lands. But because it explodes everything out, that's what makes it interesting to me. And it builds out a bunch of new organizations, a bunch of new races, and everything. And of course, a massive cataclysm and it's, the intrigue is very interesting. Like, who is the deceiver? Why are they doing what they're doing? And when you find out, you're just like, son of a, it goes crazy, but you don't find out until I think the end of the second book, maybe into the third book, you'll find out for sure. But anyway, favorite parts for me, the ship captain getting torn apart by the deceiver, brutal, but awesome. Thorn Drumheller / Willow Ufgood making a deal with a demon to help and rescue Elora Danan, and then that massive ascension ceremony completely destroying Angwin. That was really, really cool moment. Anytime Frangine and Rule are in the story in a scene, it's always funny and good. I really love those characters, and to see how the magic has sort of extrapolated and grown is very interesting as well. And so I really like that aspect of it as well. The least favorite parts for me is the writing. The fact that Mardigan and Sorsha are just sort of wiped off the face of existence, as well as Tirasleen so early on, but their absence is needed in order for this story to be told. You could not tell this story with those two in it, because they would just dominate every scene and they would take care of every problem. And so you have to have them absent. So it's sad that they're gone, but I get it. There's still this looming presence of Bavmorda, and I love that because she was a big bad guy. And I love that her presence is still felt. But the writing is what fails this entire trilogy. The thing is Chris Claremont can write well. He's just long-winded. And so if someone could edit him, it would make for an infinitely better trilogy. But it's already existed, and it's existed for a very long time, since, 1995. So what are you going to do? I mean, it exists. It's here. So just do what you can to get through the writing and find the core story underneath, and you will enjoy it because it is good. In any case, that's my review. I would highly recommend this to every Willow fan. If you're a high fantasy fan, you could probably skip it because it's only germane to the Willow universe, and the writing is so bad in times that it's just a struggle to get through in some cases and pretty nonsensical in others. So you really have to be a Willow fan to appreciate this novel at all, and especially the Chronicles of Shadow War trilogy of novels. If you don't like Willow, there's no reason to even be involved at all. All right, but that is all the time I have to talk about Shadow Moon by Chris Claremont. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Willow fans, in addition to Star Wars fans, learn about this channel and its content. So until the Infernal Brotherhood convenes again, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf herders, may the Force be with you.